Good evening. I'm Dean Anson. This is the September 2nd, 2020 meeting of the Laconia Conservation Commission. And
Deb Williams,
Lisa Moran.
Marnie Schultz, Stacy Susie.
Ashley Ruprecht.
okay, so we have a quorum. So we start the meeting with a toast to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Okay, so let's start with, we're gonna start with 63 Blaisdell. Is that what you said, Ashley? Okay.
Okay, I'm Nick Schedule. I'm from Dubois and King, consultant for the project, and Bruce Wright from Irwin Marine is also here. So this project, most of you are probably familiar with. It's a boat storage facility that's going to be proposed on the town line between Guilford and Laconia, on I guess kind of where the old Grossman's site is. They've got a boat storage facility there, a maintenance facility there, and the next phase is to do a pad site to do outdoor boat storage. The boat storage is actually all happening in Guilford. There is wetland impacts in Guilford where we have a wetland permit, approved wetland permit for impacting 24,065 square feet of forested wetland. And then on the Laconia side is where we're doing most of the mitigation related to that. So we're doing stream restoration and on-site mitigation that totals 52,180 square feet and 375 feet of stream restoration. For those of you who are familiar, we had several site visits out on the site with in coordination with the Guilford Conservation Commission and representatives from DES and EPA and Army Corps in order to kind of work our way through the permitting process with wetlands. So we did that. We kind of got through the process. We got an approval through the city for site plan approval, and then kind of changes in priorities for Irwin forced them to delay construction. We did one extension, and that lapsed. So we got past however many extensions we were allowed. So now we're kind of back to reapplying for the conditional use permit. Everything is the same as what was previously approved. Essentially, these are the same plans coming back at you, mostly because they're the plans that were approved by wetlands, and ultimately that's what's going to get constructed is the wetland approved plan. So I can answer some questions. The main plan I think you can look at is the impact site plan, which is sheet 4, the W1 plan, and that shows kind of an overview of the site. It shows where from the impacts key map, like in the different hatching that represents the different impacts. On mine, it's color-coded red, which shows the wetland buffer within the city. I don't know if yours got the red. Whoops, sorry.
This is on W1?
W1. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I will mention, because it's come up already, so we're impacting some of the perennial stream buffer, and so we went through that with EPA and wetlands folks. And part of what we are doing is planting some buffer back in there, and we identified eastern hemlocks. And so we found out recently that there's invasive species that are affecting the eastern hemlock. So right now what we're gonna do is we're planning to leave that on there, but with the condition or idea that we would look at that at the time and determine based on expert, qualified professional, we may recommend a different species there. Just based on that, we don't want to plant something that we know is going to be a risk, to fail. After you look at that W1, you can go to C10 and 11, which are the sheets 14 and 15 of the set, and that shows the stream restoration work in more detail. And then also the wetland mitigation plan. So the only other thing that's happening in Laconia is the stormwater management for the site as well. So we have a stormwater management BMP. It's a gravel wetland. So that provides storage and treatment for the runoff that's going to get generated from the gravel site that's in Guilford. So we have a stormwater collection system, and then that's piped to the gravel wetland. And that gravel wetland, as I said, it kind of detains large storm events, and then it filters it through a underwater gravel system to treat runoff. And it's sized so that we're not increasing any flow off the site. And that went through, and all the drainage went through alteration of terrain permitting with New Hampshire DES as well.
So where does the stormwater go?
So the stormwater goes into it's a stormwater management pond. It's called a gravel wetland. So it's got surface it's got surface kind of storage so that it stores water, and then it has these low flow devices that force water through subterranean, like through the gravel media. So based on head pressure within the first cell, it kind of forces water down through that system, and it gets filtered basically underground in the gravel.
Okay.
And then it gets discharged from outlet structure at the end. So after it's gone through its treatment process, it gets released back into the environment at the same rate or less than what existing flows are. So we measure the existing flow from the site, and then our goal is always to not increase the runoff compared to existing. So we've reduced it in all cases, in all storm events.
And does it wind up in Black Brook? Is that where?
It does, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, good. So we're,
So the stream restoration work that we're showing on C10, so that's a tributary to Black Brook. That's, and that was, it was identified in the study that D&K did, that identified some of the enhancement projects. So this is in fact implementation of that Black Brook study by doing this project.
Great.
That was one of our arguments when we did the mitigation. Rather than kind of pay into a mitigation fund where it goes into the watershed, we wanted it right in that watershed where we're working, like literally. And that's always the best case for mitigation, is to address it right where you're kind of taking those wetlands.
we wanted it there too. We
Of
wanted
course.
the mitigation
Yeah,
funds
no,
to be
and
spent.
I think you
Lori
guys
Sum-
supported that
Yeah,
when
Lori-
we were
Lori Summer.
getting our permit from DES and Army Corps. So I can answer any questions.
There's a fairly insidious infestation of Japanese knotweed in there. What are your plans to remove and mitigate it?
So we have, we're gonna have someone on site, a specialist that deals, our wetland specialist, Randall Shuey. So he's gonna be involved during construction to identify these invasive species. In some cases, I think we've identified trying to bury it on site, but there are notes. Where are our invasive species notes?
I mean, identifying all of them would be a good idea, but some of that stuff is fairly obvious
Yeah, I mean,
and big.
yeah, and in any case, we're trying to, you know, if we disturb it, we're gonna make sure that it doesn't spread. And I've gotta find those notes that address it, but.
If anyone's having an issue with the rotation thing on the iPads, if you swipe down on the right top, a little menu comes up and there's this lock with an arrow. If you click it and it turns red, it makes it so the screen stops moving when you turn the iPad. I can tell some of you guys are having a little bit of an issue here with that rotation.
Thank
thing.
you.
So if you hit that button, it'll freeze it and you can move it and zoom in and whatnot.
Which button?
So if you go like this, swipe on the top right.
Oh,
this
top
little
right.
menu comes up and hit this lock. It's next to the moon.
Oh,
and
sure.
it'll turn red, right? And then that'll let you move it and it'll stop moving around.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're taking all the fun out of this.
I know.
A bump on my head.
Part-time IT specialist.
Du Bois and King is who presented this before.
Right.
Yeah, so any soils, so we've got a condition on our wetlands permit that we would follow, identifies, so any wetland soils from areas vegetated with invasive species shall not be used in the wetland restoration site. Precautions shall be taken to prevent import or transport of soil or seed stock containing invasive species, plant species. Contractor is responsible for work. The contractor responsible for work shall appropriately address invasive species in accordance with the New Hampshire DOT best management practices for roadside invasive plants, and will control, the permittee shall control invasive species by measures agreed upon by the New Hampshire DES wetland program if any such species is found in the stabilization areas during construction or during the early stages of vegetative establishment. So basically what we're committing to is having someone on site who's an expert, a qualified professional at identifying these species. And then if we come into contact with them within any area that encompasses our limit of disturbance, we're going to address them in accordance with the New Hampshire DOT best management practices for roadside invasive species. So following those practices, I think there are options on how they get disposed of, and that would get agreed upon with the contractor. So exactly how that's going to happen, you know, how that happens, I don't know, but I know that what we're committing to is following those best management practices.
Can we be in that decision-making with
Ye-
them?
Uh,
When it comes down to it, it would be nice to know if they're pulling it up, taking it to a different site, taking it and burning it, whatever they're doing, it would be nice to know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if, ultimately, I think the owner is gonna have control of the contractor, I think, you know, and then your technician would have, kind of, I guess, cooperation with us in terms of like, she's gonna be out there doing inspections on whatever weekly basis it is, and like, if we find it, we're gonna report, you know, we found it, and here's what our plan is. And I guess, I don't know if we can promise that we'll do exactly what you want, but I think we
No,
can
no, no,
promise
but
that
as
we
long
would
as
take that into
Ashley knows
consideration.
if-
Yeah,
yeah.
take it into consideration, and then,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Could we just put, change that so that if you find any, you just take it to the burn dump, the Laconia burn dump, and burn it? And then it's, you find, Japanese knotweed or
Bittersweet.
bittersweet or any of those, you just take it over to the burn site and I think that's
Yeah.
is that a BMP? Is that a best management practice to remove it and burn
I'm
it?
not sure how they vary between the different species.
No, what I'm saying is that if, just say all invasive species will be removed to the burn dump and burned.
I mean, I think we can come to an agreement on how to deal with it, right? I mean.
You
if-
may
if
have
it's-
other options.
Yeah, I mean,
In the
like,
same fashion.
they may say, we've got enough of it, we don't, it's
Contractor
not
may
worth
have
it
a
to
pile
drive
like
it over
that.
to the dump, it's worth it for us to just create a pile here and we'll burn it, and then if we
Okay.
if we have someone, if we have, Randy there to say, okay, it's in a place where it's not gonna spread, and, you're managing the seeds that, may come off and things like that, I think we wanna make sure that that's taken care of. But I don't wanna, I guess, I think like Mike's saying is, the contractor's gonna dictate the means and methods a lot of times, but they still have to meet the best management practices.
Right.
We're gonna have the expert on site to
Okay,
And I think we can.
I was just trying to make it.
I feel pretty confident that we'll all be in agreement once we
Oh,
decide what we're gonna
Yeah,
do.
I
but,
think that's right. I was just
Yeah,
trying to make it simple that
Yeah.
we're gonna burn it, that's it. Whether you burn it on site or take it to the burn dump, up to you, but, okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm sorry, it's late to the party question. Is this proposal for just boat storage up there or for the next two buildings also?
just for boat storage.
All right.
When do you propose to start construction?
Next summer?
well, the timber, there may be some cutting this winter in order to align
Yeah.
with the cutting schedule, and then the construction schedule will start in play next spring, and it's stage what we can do certain times of year.
Yeah, I think one of the main things with the clearing is we have to do certain seasonal stuff with the northern long-eared bat.
Mm-hmm.
So that comes into consideration with the clearing component, but I think the majority of earth movement activities are gonna happen the construction season of 2021.
When the frost comes out.
What's that?
When the frost comes out.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't like to predict when that's gonna happen.
Any other questions, comments?
No, it seems relative to what we've seen before. All seems in line. I know they've done the work. And so here it is, time to move on a project.
Okay. I especially like the fact that you're gonna use the mitigation funds on site to do part of the stream restoration. I think that's what we had requested, and appreciate you honoring our request. So anybody wanna make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion to support this project on Bisson Ave, Irwin Bisson Ave.
No, this is
Blaisdell.
Blaisdell, sorry.
Blaisdell, I'm sorry, my own misstatements. Wow, could you imagine? So, all right, so on Blaisdell Ave for boat storage, and assuming they follow or accede to any recommendations, then thusly therefore, go forth.
Okay. Anybody want to second the motion?
I'll second.
Any additional comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How long ago did this first come to us, remember?
Couple
5 or
of
6 years ago.
Is that this-
Yeah,
that
it's
one?
been quite a while.
In a couple, 3 years?
Yeah, at least 5 or 6, I think.
At least 3.
It's been,
The other
In a while.
permit system.
and we also looked at it one other time when they were gonna do more with, on the other side of,
Yeah, we did a site visit, I remember.
right, yeah.
I remember it was
Because I
hot.
remember the sawdust pile.
Yeah, it was. It was really hot, you're right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so now I've managed to lose my agenda.
Thought I had-
Pictures now too.
Are you back again?
I'm here. So I'm representing Irwin Auto for 59 Bisson.
It's kind of double dipping, isn't it?
What's that?
Sorry.
It's a whole different
He's got a client.
process.
He's got a client and he's,
So, this project is an addition, it's an addition to their service, department or service area. So, it's in the back, southeast corner of their existing main building that's on the site. I should have given you the map plot, tax map 406, 294, 27. So what this project is basically, it is in the wetland buffer, but it's all within what's already been disturbed. So like they're gonna take where their parking lot is now, and they're gonna cut the parking lot and put a building in. They're gonna lose some parking. We've worked with planning board, actually got approval at the planning board for the site plan amendment work. But because it's within the wetland wetland buffer, even though it's already disturbed, I think it still requires the conditional use permit review, so. Everything, and I guess I'd just stress, everything's gonna be within the footprint of what's already impervious, so we're not increasing any impervious surfaces on the site. We're not changing the runoff characteristics of the site. We're just kind of swapping out pavement for rooftop.
And then you're not creating any more parking?
Not creating any more parking, no.
Taking out parking.
What's that?
Taking out parking.
Yeah, we're losing, so on C1, there's a parking requirement chart. And so, based on the zoning, they need 4 spaces per bay, and then 1 space for every 3,000 square feet of display area. So based on their display area and the number of service bays they're gonna have proposed, they require 156 spaces, parking spaces. And then, they currently have 231 parking spaces. They're gonna lose 48 parking spaces, and they'll be down to 183 parking spaces. So they'll have 183 parking spaces dedicated to customers and employees. And then the zoning requirement is for 156.
probably have like 25 or 30 extra.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So the Quick Lane and Enterprise and all that, do they have an agreement for shared parking? Does this affect how many parking spaces?
They're included in those, I included Quick Lane as service bays, so that's how I considered their use. So their use is included in those 39
Okay, so-
service bays.
Right.
Quick Lane is owned by Irwin. It's all owned.
But yeah,
But yeah, their use is included in that calculation.
okay.
And then, Enterprise has dedicated spaces already on the site, right in front of, like, those spaces closest to,
Got like 5 spaces in front and then
There's
across
some-
the street,
yeah.
yeah.
I think yeah, right where the handicap space is, those 3 spaces are, Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And then Enterprise actually has one of the bays that they use for
Mm,
detailing,
mhm.
but,
Thanks.
So Nick, on this drawing EX-1.
Yep.
It doesn't appear that you're going to be in the buffer in terms of the building. But is it construction, during construction, are you gonna be in there? Am I not reading this correctly?
So look on C1. On C1, you can see where the new building is. So the existing building is not within the buffer, but the new building does get within the buffer. Here, I can show you on this. So this dashed line here is the 50-foot buffer.
Oh, okay.
See how it follows this circle shows you where it kind of comes off of the point right here at the drain. And so this wetland, it's really just a drainage ditch that drains the stuff from Union Avenue and drains, off of this site, goes to a catch basin and then a pipe, and then it drains down this ditch. This is where Public Works is. This is the Quick Lane. And then it goes across Pisson and then eventually into Coxsackie River.
But that
But
flows
this
pretty well
buffer-
sometimes.
This is the buffer we're talking about that we're gonna impact with what's now pavement.
It's already paved.
It's already paved, so it's not, I wanna say it's not really a new impact, it's just a different impact. And then we're putting in, like, I did show silt fence. It could be silt fence or silt sock, depending on, what the contractor's gonna use. I think it's probably gonna end up being silt sock, is what we're seeing a lot now.
That's what we would recommend, yeah.
Yeah, and then I showed some on this side too. This dash line is really the limit of disturbance, so it's all within the paved area. So they'll saw cut the pavement, they may saw cut it, a little more straight. And then there'll be just slight adjustments to grade so that the building entrances all work out. And then, we actually kind of tighten up the driveway in here, so we actually create a little bit of loam and seed area grass where it's existing pavement. So technically, we're reducing the impervious. It's not anything that really makes a difference on runoff, but it's
All right,
it's
so I have a
just that it's not-
question, just 'cause I like statistics. Do you know what your impact is there? And I'm just curious.
In terms of percentage,
What, just in square feet?
uh,
And I don't actually expect to have the answer,
I think
but
it's on
do you
my-
have an idea?
I think it's on my application. I don't have it on the top of my head. Well, the addition is just over 10,000 square feet, and then it's probably another, I would guess it's another 10,000 square feet when you figure all the,
Yeah, but,
Around it.
yeah,
so I would call it 20,000 square feet. That's
but
an
as far as the
estimate, but
building, is the building's only impacting,
10,000, 10,120.
or less than that on that back corner if you took a third of it?
Oh, in terms of buffer, like
Yeah.
buffer impact?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's probably a quarter,
Yeah, like that. Just for visuals.
yeah.
So you're gonna,
So-
the roof is gonna be flat?
Roof will be flat, it will, there's an existing roof drain there, so the existing building has a roof drain that drains into that drainage area, the wetland.
Mm-hmm.
So our existing building will be a metal building, flat roof, and those roof drains will tie together and go to the same spot. And we did run a calculation, we ran a calculation just for public works sake on whether piping the rooftop runoff versus the pavement runoff made any kind of difference, like because it was in a pipe, but it doesn't. The area is, because of the area and the time of concentration that it takes for stuff to get to certain places, we ran it through a hydraulic model, and it's the exact same runoff,
Okay.
which is what we expected.
Are you gonna have a porta potty here during construction?
No, they won't need one.
That's a tough question for me to answer. That's,
Although they may need it for the
I don't
construction
know if they
crew.
would need it, cause I think they
That's
have
what I'm saying.
access to those public bathrooms within the building for the contractor. Like, the contractor would
don't
have to
want them
work
in
out
there.
that with the
I
owner.
was just going to say, you don't want those dirty worker dudes walking in there. Have
Because
you
have to,
ever?
that's like right in the middle of the
Mechanics
showroom.
are already in there working.
So, okay, so here's my point. My point is, if you put a porta potty, we would like to have it in excess of 30 feet from the river.
Okay,
33, to be exact.
Right.
from the wetland, any wetland. We're not gonna be close to the river, but
You're okay.
Okay.
Just not up on where it'd be more convenient not to go into the porta potty.
No, the point is, we don't want it to be near a water body.
yeah, you don't want it to spill. like,
Right.
Have a spill and have
Right.
it get into the water body.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy, I can make that a note. I'll update the plans that the planning board, I can make that an additional note on the plans before the planning board signs it, yeah. That's fine with me.
Okay.
I'm sure Chris will agree to that, that's not a
Okay.
big deal.
Thank you.
There's plenty of room more than 30 feet away.
Right.
That they can put
Right.
one, if they're gonna have one.
It's just that we,
We've been fighting with
We're-
people all summer, so.
actually, we've been fighting with
Well,
one of
I
our
mean,
sister departments
every
there.
site is different, I think this site has space that they can accommodate that
Right.
pretty easily.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Okay, anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion that the Conservation Commission will support, I'll try this again, Rowan and Bissonnette for their addition to their building, given that the recommendations are considered and certainly attended to.
I'll second that.
Okay, okay, so the only thing I would like to add is just the porta potty, the more than 30 feet from, more than 33 feet from the river.
Now, right out in the middle of Bissonnette.
It's okay.
So you can dodge it, eh?
Did you say 33 feet?
33 is actually the DES requirement.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
We share here.
It's a obscure thing. It's really hard to even find.
Well, I
But-
mean, technically, it probably depends on the slope of the land and all that too, right?
Right, well.
Right.
How quick it's gonna get.
Don't make this any more confusing.
Great, they love debate.
I think I heard that thing about something flowing uphill. Anyway, doesn't make any difference. So, okay, anybody have any other comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thanks, Nick.
you.
Thank you.
Oh, cool. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to the minutes of August 5th. Anybody have any comments on those?
I had a correction.
Okay, thank you.
Under number 8, staff report, where we talked about the geese at O-Pee-Chee Park. One of the last sentences said, "The commission is in support of assisting in any way they can if Parks and
Oh, yeah,
Rec."
okay.
Okay? That's all I had. I should have been an editor.
You're a school
Not too
teacher
late.
instead.
Not too late, you're still young.
Yeah, that's easy. I could read till I'm 103.
I think my brain just stopped working in the middle of that sentence.
Maybe-
I'm like, why did I write that? All right,
But it
I'll-
also
I'll
looks
revise
like,
that.
it looks like maybe you did and then it just got,
Oh, you know what?
It's
I
a-
was using the program and sometimes it times out and it stops my minutes while I'm writing them.
oh,
And so I have to go back and figure out like where it cut me off.
that's terrible.
Yeah. So that might have happened.
Okay.
Or I might have just froze, I don't know.
It's okay. We
Okay,
are thankful for you regardless.
And we forgive.
okay, any other comments?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of August 5th, 2020 with those corrections.
Second.
Okay, anybody have any additional comments?
No.
Okay, all in favor of accepting, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is applications.
No, none at this time, that have been signed since the last one, but we do have some for the next meeting.
Okay. Okay, so under old business, we have the Laconia Municipal Airport tree cutting. The Guilford Conservation Commission had a meeting where the consultants and the manager of the airport attended, and the project was discussed because they have a new wetland permit application. If anybody would like to see it, it's here. It's greatly reduced in cutting from the last submission. So Lisa and I went to the meeting last night.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to talk about?
Oh, I wasn't prepared.
Oh. So what was your overall take?
Well, when you said it was greatly reduced, so they're not cutting anything within the airport property, it's all outside of the property. And pretty much the same areas they had talked about before. Dean had asked the question about up on Hillcrest Drive, which is off White Oaks Road, you know, whether the landowners were fully in support of all that. And they said yes, and they had a discussion about, not that it's of terminology, when they cut and leave the tree there, it's temporary, but when they cut it and take it away, it's permanent or something.
No, it was a reverse. I got it wrong the first
I don't
time.
remember, but anyway, in some areas, they're gonna cut the trees and leave it there.
What do you mean, leave it there?
Because it would be more detrimental to go into a wetter area and
Haul it
tear it
out.
all up. I'm
So they'll
thinking-
leave the roots.
Well, no.
They'll leave everything.
They're gonna, well, yeah, they're gonna leave.
How are they harvesting it?
I thought they were, well, I don't know, to be honest with you, I don't know, it sounded like there were some areas they didn't wanna go into because they would have to cross the brook with equipment to do that. they were gonna take it out, so they wanted to leave it. There was only a few areas, and I think those were within the floodplain area down by Walmart. I think was a couple of
There's
those.
a set of people that own that gate down there. I remember from visiting a long time ago, and it's right down in the Walmart there and has access down onto that back area. I
Okay.
remember that.
And, we didn't talk about, or they didn't talk about, like, their BMPs or any of that in terms of, because it was all gonna be done when the ground's frozen. I'm sorry, like I said, I didn't take any notes, because I didn't
Okay,
know I was
so,
gonna be talking.
I mean, I think that, you know, what Lisa said is right. They're going to, wherever they cut, and they're gonna do a lot of the cutting by hand, where they cut and they leave it
To rot.
to rot, yeah. That's,
Temporary?
it's either temporary or permanent.
That's permanent. That's permanent.
What, permanent?
Well,
In that it allows the materials, I'm not being facetious here, to go back to the soils and
They said they were being
thereby.
consistent with the terminology used by DES, which is why I think this is, it's not intuitive, I guess. So-
I guess I'm making it up right there, cause it's
My
trying to get,
recollection from the last time that when they came before us was that it's permanent when they cut it and just leave it. It's temporary if they're hauling it away.
That may
I
be
think
right.
it's because of the amount of impact of all of those trees laying down and staying on it takes forever, I mean, not forever, but a long time for those trees to decompose, so they're saying like it's kind of a longer impact, a permanent impact.
right.
Yeah.
When they just cut them and leave them.
Okay, so the other thing
But
that,
it's healthy.
Excuse me.
Guilford had one of their employees go through the application and break down the amount of acreage in each of the municipalities. So in Laconia, the permanent wetland impact is 450 square feet. And the temporary is 15,150 square feet. And there's no proposed impact on the perennial stream in Laconia. However, in Guilford, there, so this is their compilation of, and they talked about doing shrub planting after they cut trees. And apparently they've contacted the two homeowners where larger trees that are deciduous, oaks or maples, are being cut down in Laconia. And those residents are okay with cutting the trees. And they're going to drop the trees and leave them there, and they must be that it's gonna be used for firewood or whatever, but anyway.
They're on private property, the people get to do what they want with them.
Right.
I think they also said, didn't they say, Dean, that they were going to be addressing the cutting within the airport property in the future, but that they are going to be, in the nearer future, going to be doing some brush cutting, which is not to be confused with this project.
Right.
They'll be doing some maintenance stuff so that if they see anything happening out there, it's probably their maintenance, not, how can I put this? Their shorter-term maintenance rather than this longer-term maintenance project. And, so that would be something to just be aware of.
Right, so they're gonna be, and the cutting on the airport property that Lisa's talking about, they're gonna do with a brontosaurus or with a brush hog and just leave material there because those two implements turned into wood chips. There was a question as to whether those wood chips would fill in the wetland area, but
They also said, and this is not really, just FYI, they are gonna do some cutting down at the very end of, when I talk about the end, the Patrick's end. But they're not a lot of trees, they're mostly birches is what they were saying, and Guilford Conservation Commission didn't seem concerned about how much they were taking, because that's an highly erodible area, but they're very aware of it.
And there's always a safety issue for the airport.
Yeah, they come in pretty low there.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, that's just an FYI, it's nothing we can have anything to say
And we
about.
appreciate the airport that it is a viable economic generator for the area.
So, between White Oaks, I forget the name of that little road that goes down off of White Oaks.
Hillcrest,
Yeah. Is it Hillcrest?
There is Hillcrest there, yeah.
So between there and Lily Pond, are there some steep slopes?
not cliffish. Certainly, maybe if you looked at topo, you would see that there is a ridge that runs up there as it flows into Guilford. But I haven't seen anything that,
So the only thing that concerns me is if they do cutting there and it, it has more of a tendency then to erode down into the marsh and into Lily Pond there. Cause I know Walmart is up pretty high,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, the road I'm talking about is right
If you-
behind Walmart there.
Well, if you look, and this, I haven't measured it, so but if you look, when you're going around the terminus of the bypass.
Yeah.
And you look up, I mean, it's much more gradual than where Route 11, Route 3 and 11,
Mhm.
when you're going by Walmart and the old gas station, that's really steep.
Right.
But when you're going behind Walmart,
Right.
and Mike, I think I remember this, it's a much more gradual, kind of, it was a boggy kind of thing, much more gradual.
Right. I've been to a wedding at the end of that road,
Yeah.
and they have like some pretty nice views, so
Yeah.
they have to be up a little bit.
yeah.
So that would be my only concern is but maybe that's the section where they're leaving the stumps?
They're gonna leave all the stumps.
They leave stumps. When they go through,
They're
they
not-
take it, they leave stumps, they're not looking to grind that stuff out. In fact, they're hoping all the stumps have a lot of really good
Right.
energy in them so that they'll sprout new trees, so in 5 years, they'll be out holding the same project again. But it's not going to be singular trees at that point, it's going to be the bushes that grow off the stump, and within 10 years, they'll be doing it again.
I'm not trying to, because that makes sense in most projects, I'm not sure though. I thought she said they were gonna, maybe she meant they were gonna, I thought she said they were taking them out.
In some
In
places?
the uplands, I thought she said they were taking them
That's
out
what
in
it
the
said.
uplands.
Really?
Yes,
Only in the wetland is the stump staying in.
that's right, and that they are taking them out, and they're going to, the plantings that they're gonna do are things like high bush blueberry.
What's the
and-
point of taking the stump out?
that was not my meeting last night, so I didn't ask any questions, but that, I'm just saying that they are gonna be doing some planting.
I mean, if they wanna keep it level for transit and stuff like that, certainly there's grinding and
Yeah,
other,
I forget, are they only taking trees that are higher than 10 feet or something? Was that it? Was there
I don't remember the figure, but, I mean, they varied. What they talked about was because of the trajectory of landing, so the further out you are, the taller the trees can be.
right?
So, I mean, so it varies, because they talked about, they are also gonna take some of the trees as you're coming from, say you're driving from, Hannaford's and you're going towards Guilford, and you're gonna get onto the bypass.
Right.
That corner that you go around here's the bridge, and you're going around the corner to get up onto the bypass, they are gonna take some of those big pines there too.
Really?
She said, I believe that's right,
That's right, it's on the map here.
yeah.
We'll be able to see the
But those are
snowmobilers.
not gonna, they're not gonna take the stumps out there.
I don't know, I just know she said they were gonna cut some of those pines when she was talking about height. that some of those are
Sure.
intrusive.
After 50 years, go figure.
Yeah,
That'll give us a better view when those snowmobilers come charging down anyway.
well, you know, I mean, unfortunately, that whole area, I say unfortunately, unfortunately, it's just getting developed, and I think we're just gonna have to.
Hang on, kids.
Look out.
You know, so, I mean, Guilford's got some erosion issues with that tributary they've got to address and stuff, but it's not ours to worry about, so.
Okay.
Here's a map that shows me. Yeah, there's not too many steep slopes there.
Yes, as I recall, when I was a kid walking up there, it's kind of, because there's a prime wetland on the
Yeah.
other side of Lily Pond from that.
Right.
And it was kind of,
It's always cool because there's the hackmatax in there.
yes, yeah. I
They look
remember
good in
that.
the fall.
Yeah. They are. Anyway,
It's just between this and then the Irwin project. Black Brook might be,
I was gonna I put that on my other business, that, you know, I'm wondering, I don't wanna jump ahead.
No, that's okay.
Cause I had brought that up at the last meeting here when we talked about it, and I'm wondering, and we probably don't have the money for it, but I'm wondering if there isn't something to be said for now monitoring Black Brook because of all these drainage impacts, and do we wanna do some stream testing at different sections? Or, you know, I think, well, the other thing, because were you gonna talk about the other thing that they talked about at the meeting? Because it plays into this, the culvert.
I can. Go ahead.
Oh, did you want me to talk about it? All right, I'll talk about it. I don't care. You fill in what I don't get. So the old Getty gas station that had then become a dealership and whatever. So there was, I guess, some issues of the leaking underground storage tank or some contaminated soils, which that had been they were gonna address it. The situation being that in order to get to the area, when you pull off 11, what you're crossing over when you're driving on that pavement is a culvert. The culvert can't support the weight of the vehicles that need to go over it to take care of the gas station issues. And in the wetlands permit, that area replacement of the culvert, I guess, was not included. And
that's why they stopped it.
they're having some, yes, and DES can't, I've forgotten the right word, I wanna say engender, that's not the right word, can't, force the landowner to do that. So that's why the pipes are still there and everything. So, I'm saying it comes into our discussion about maybe monitoring Black Brook, because we know we've got this culvert that hasn't been fixed yet. And it's not undersized, it's just kinda decrepit.
Right, so apparently the project started when the owner removed the culvert
Yes.
originally, and they were told they didn't have a permit to remove that culvert. So what then DES got involved because it was discovered that there was leaky tanks, like Lisa said, and there was gasoline contamination in the soil. So DES required the owner to remove the contaminated soil and to put the culvert back. So the old culvert went back, and the current owner does not want to file a permit application to put in a new culvert. I used to clean up contaminated gas stations, and I think there's probably a chance that there is contaminated soil in the area around where the old culvert still is and was when they took it out. So that contamination is going to affect Black Brook, because what flows through the culvert is Black Brook. So Guilford asked me to check and see what could be done to finish the cleanup, if it's not completed properly, and to get a new culvert put in. They have an employee whose name is,
Dave Andrade is the health inspector, but he's retiring in October.
right, so he's retiring in October, so they wanted me to review what's been done so far. And so I told them I would do that, so, anyway. But I agree with Lisa that when we were doing the tribs for Pogus Bay, we used to sample at the Union Avenue Bridge,
Yeah.
coming out of that pond where Black Brook comes in and ponds there. And we haven't done that, but, you know, it would be a relatively easy addition to the trib sampling.
We were doing it last year during V-Lab instead of V-Rap. We were getting it while we were on the bay.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess, actually, I just happened to think, Dean, I'm sorry, I'm slow on the uptake here. That's actually Guilford. If
What
to do
is?
it upstream would be Guilford. I think the town line is, I'm sorry.
Where?
He was talking about Union Avenue Bridge.
Yes, I was talking about upstream of that.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking about increased flows,
Yeah.
and just went right out of my head that that's Guilford. It's
It
Guilford up
has-
until,
Has
Well-
Guilford ever tested there?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't
like,
know.
cause Blackbrook starts back by Patrick's, like way down there.
No.
Yeah,
Not Blackbrook, that's,
Meadowbrook.
I was gonna say
Oh,
Meadowbrook.
it's Meadowbrook, but
but then
then
there's Lily
it
Pond that
flows
comes out of Lily
into
Pond.
the swamp and then becomes Blackbrook?
No. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, at one, I'm remembering a discussion I had, and I don't know where I was when I had it. That the way the topography works, Meadowbrook flows towards Patrick's, Blackbrook flows towards Pogus Bay. But they don't, Blackbrook and Meadowbrook
They
don't
don't?
really. no.
Rise from two different spots.
Right, so the tribs, there's one trib that comes down from Watson Road
Right.
and goes down, that's kind of the trib, a trib to Blackbrook, and then Blackbrook comes from Lily Pond.
And the swamp there behind.
Right, cause there's an
Walmart.
extensive swamp
Right.
in the airport, but,
Wetlands.
Sorry.
yeah, it used to be, I mean, when you're talking years ago before the airport was there, that was all one big wetland, all the way from Sawyer's, all the way up to where Pogus Bay and McDonald's, that was all one big wetland system, but it's been filled in and everything. So whatever discussion I was in at the time, and it might have been Matt Morosky when he was doing the first visits out there, that they flow in two different directions.
And this doesn't have to do with Laconia, but right along that highway there that goes down to Sawyer's on the right side, that culvert gets full of water.
Yeah.
Where does that flow into Meadowbrook or into, I'm not sure which way it flows. I didn't know if you knew.
Good question.
Irregardless.
I bet you it goes back into the brook that comes in behind Patrick's and into
Yeah.
into Irwin's. Probably the same thing that goes up from Beanie Greenie. And then comes in
Yes,
there
yeah.
somewhere. Right below it, there's a bridge over there.
Well, that's Gunstock Brook. I was just trying to remember if there was I don't remember,
Where does Gunstock Brook empty?
into Saunders Bay, right by, into the
So right next to
Yacht Club.
Meadowbrook there.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay,
and that's part of this
sorry for the tangent.
airport cutting, no, part of this airport cutting project will involve that outlet, but.
But it would be really interesting to test Blackbrook from its origins
Yeah.
along the way a couple times and then to Pogus, because it could be ugly. It could have some ugly stuff in it.
What I was gonna suggest is that we coordinate a sampling program of Black Brook with Guilford Conservation Commission,
Excuse me.
and they do their portion, we do our portion, we make sure that we use the same parameters, same meters, and then compare results to see,
Yeah, I think
you
we
know,
should
if we
do
can
it
identify
together.
some problems.
Yeah, I think it should be done at the same time, yeah.
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 The same stuff, yeah.
Just because
a good idea.
flows into our drinking water, so.
Right, right. And as we dry out as a earth, all of those pollutants are just more and more compacted into.
You don't mean all those geese,
Well, I just,
all that heavy industrial farming.
for me, I mean, for me, I'm more worried about the flow rates and the volume that might increase.
Okay, so Ashley, why don't we, if you would send Carol an email, or I'll send her an email saying, we would like to have a coordinated sampling program for Black Brook,
So,
and and maybe even its tributaries, so if there's some other smaller ones, so we can identify what that watershed is. But I think we already did it in the,
study?
the geomorphological
You
investigation.
have a watershed map in the
Right.
morphology study.
So
Right.
we could take a look at those and see, where we could sample, what we sample for, et cetera. And then maybe what we do is talk to Trout Unlimited to see if they would walk it and see if there are any areas where we could put woody material to,
Beavers.
no, these are human beavers.
They've eradicated the they don't let the beavers stay there in Lily Pond. Every time I see them there, they're getting rid of them.
Anyway,
While we're on that subject, I mean, it would be nice to keep an eye on Jewett Brook too.
Well,
I got beavers there.
I mean, as it comes down through Guilford.
Yep.
Because there's construction in the industrial park.
but the industrial park's ours, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
Industrial park's ours, isn't it?
Isn't part of it in Guilford?
The Hounslow Ave, one end of it is, but
Where the brook comes through
yeah,
is
you're
Guilford.
right.
Yeah.
You're right.
okay, so let's see, where are we here? I am lost now. Okay, so.
Sorry, I jumped.
So okay, so we've diverted away from the airport project. And what I would like to do is to, if this current plan is acceptable, then let's make a decision so we can let the airport know.
What did Guilford decide?
They approved it,
I did,
Any stipulations?
not that I recall.
not that I recall either.
People gotta get to the island, they gotta land at the airport.
I mean, and in truth, a lot more of Guilford's impacted than Laconia, right?
Right, exactly,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Except for the wetlands.
The prime wetlands in
Well, they're
Guilford,
wetlands that, in the table,
The-
their wetlands they have more wetlands impacted than we do.
it's prime wetland. that's
Right,
impacted
but-
Guilford.
But then it also carries down.
Right,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
we're downstream.
Right. Never,
Okay.
never a good place to be.
It looks like they're leaving all those trees there. They're
Yeah.
gonna cut them and leave them.
I'll make a motion
Yeah.
that we accept the airport plan as it is.
And they won't be doing snow.
This is the plan of August 2020. That's this one.
Plan of August 2020 for the Laconia Guilford Airport cuttings.
Okay, anybody want to second it?
I'll second that.
Okay, any additional comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Can I tack something on?
sure.
It's just because she just made a thought, I wanted, you said we should also be watching Jewett Brook? There is a management plan for Jewett Brook, so I don't know if that management plan is being followed at this point. So I don't know, I'm just saying, if you want testing, there's also a management plan, so.
I just know there's more building going on up there. That's,
Right, and there may be some prescription in the management plan for stuff, so that's all, sorry.
we're talking about that separately, not related to the tree clearing project.
Right, but
Yes.
she brought it up and I just didn't wanna forget. So,
Okay, just
okay.
wanted
Right,
to
the-
check, yeah,
I'm
I'll talk
sorry.
to Carol.
Right, you know, this plan has been approved.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're down to the state school property. And there are a couple of articles here. Dean, did you go to those meetings?
I went to their last meeting, which was approximately a week and a half ago. They were reporting on progress they've made with the Northern Borders Grant, progress they're making with their survey and their wetland delineation, and they're also starting to, and progress that they're making with removal of contaminated soils, which is very minimal, but yet there are some and they know where they are. And then they're also starting this month an assessment of the buildings in terms of what's inside, which we all have a very good guess of what's inside, and whether structurally they are salvageable or not. So they have a company coming in to do that.
Are they feeling, what, a gas station, a Dunkin' Donuts, what are they feeling there that's commercial, that's going to reflect?
The Northern Borders Grant is the present main entrance to the property, which is right across from North Main Street. They will upgrade that for a relatively short distance. I forget the exact number, but it's like
200 feet?
400 or 500 feet.
Oh.
And then in the area that is essentially in front of the dairy barn is proposed to become a small retail center. No identified tenants or anything
Strip mall?
like that, but just, what's that?
Strip mall?
No, they're looking at 2 or 3 buildings that would be, obviously have parking lot and everything, but yeah, no, not a strip mall, but 2 or 3 buildings that would be separate businesses, but the complex would be serviced by the same parking lot. Their Northern Border Grant is $1 million. They need to match that, which they're working on, and that is basically for road construction and infrastructure. It is not to build any actual structures. That would be a developer that would be determined later on to come in.
So is it just prepping this site? So you're saying no, I know they're doing an upgrade to the water and stuff like that. Would they be prepping that for a sewer line or considerations?
There is water and sewer up there, and for that section right there, I don't believe it goes under the road. It's off to the side. Yeah, it would be more of a prepping the site
To make it more marketable.
to make it more marketable, exactly.
Dollar store.
So, yeah.
I thought they were gonna use one of the buildings for, some kind of agriculture store.
Current dairy barn,
Okay.
or what do you wanna call it? The big stone
Yeah.
barn.
Yeah,
Is tentatively earmarked for Genuine Local
okay,
to go in there and do food prep.
Right.
Their concept is they would get food from local farms. They would prep them mostly for restaurant use, although there would probably be some form of a small retail outlet that could potentially sell to individuals, but their primary purpose is to prep for restaurant. Of course, now, restaurants are
right,
in kind of the unknown category right now, but,
right.
you know, this isn't gonna happen overnight, and, the.
That wouldn't be run by the state though, right? You
No,
wouldn't
no.
have the state getting into farming against local farmers
No,
and stuff?
no, it's Genuine Local, which already has a relationship with several area farms. They want to expand the number of farms that they're dealing with and also the number of different kinds of products that they're doing.
And were they also gonna do it this site, as they do in the Meredith site, where farmers can come in and cook their own stuff for resale?
Yes, that was also part of it. People would come in and do jams and jellies
Commercial kitchen,
and it's maple syrup.
So they have a licensed kitchen as a
Yeah,
part of
all that
it,
stuff.
not all?
You know, right next to that is the old maple sugar shack. They want to preserve that as well, so.
Yeah. Pine trees give good maple syrup.
That spruce gum is yummy.
Okay. Thank you, Dean. Okay, so we're down to the Conservation Commission checklist.
So there's two there, there's,
So there's two versions, that I sent out a version, asked for anyone who has comments or recommendations to send me them. Lisa sent me hers, so the two attachments here are one that show Lisa's comments in green and exactly as she provided them to me. And then I updated my draft that I had originally sent out and with the 8/26/2020 date, using Lisa's comments and tweaking it and changing the formatting a little bit too. I ideally want to get this to be as concise as possible, because what I don't want to do is hand the applicant like 3 or 4 pages of all of these things. So I made like a cover sheet, that way I can squeeze it down and keep it at 1 page front and back as an easy go-to thing that Concom looks for. I do want to keep in mind how we're going to make this accessible to the applicant, because right now, when someone needs a CUP for a wetland impact, and they submit their CUP application, there's a series of wetland questions. There is no mandatory checklist, and I don't know if we want to say in that question sheet, please refer to this checklist and look at it, and these are things that the Conservation Commission would like to be submitted. I don't wanna make it something that they need to submit 5 copies of to everyone, and the
Right.
planning board has to get all of
No,
these
no,
additional
no.
things, and all of this, the packet goes from 10 pages to 50 pages.
I thought, excuse me, I didn't mean to butt in, I'm sorry, can I?
Sure.
I'm sorry, thank you. My intent with the checklist was to provide something so they are sort of know ahead of time. They may be asked these questions, because these are concerns of the conservation.
Or they could just answer them ahead of time.
Uh-huh.
Or they could just answer them ahead of time in
Well-
some sort of format that,
Sure, but if they choose not to, they know coming in that we might ask those questions, so they should be.
right?
I think that probably the easiest way to get this before them, because they are really good points that if they're not mentioned in that sheet of questions that they get right now does not go through this thorough of questions and things that we're
Right.
looking at. So I think it is good to get it to them early and before the meeting. So perhaps, like I said, just adding on a footnote on the existing sheet that says, please refer to this checklist and provide any additional documentation required in that, and then they can grab that as well. And that way, like I said, they're not bringing in, when they drop off their application for submittal, 5 copies
They don't
of
need that.
all of this stuff. We get 1 copy, 1 hard copy, I'll scan it, we'll make sure it's all. in
You
the
share the
iPad.
information off one.
Yeah, and then I can put that form online as well, so they'll have it accessible from the website.
Yeah, that would
And
be
they
nice.
can see things that they're going to be asked, so they don't feel like they're blindsided and they're like 33 feet for a portable toilet, what do you mean? So,
I've never heard of it
right,
before.
it is a very weird measurement, but I think it's a good resource to say, these these are things they're gonna look for, and if they come in squeaky clean with, hey, we're gonna do a rain garden, we're gonna use this approved list from UNH that specifies these species and X, Y, and Z, so I think it's a good idea. Does anyone have any additional feedback? And thanks, Lisa, for
Oh, that's okay.
thoroughly going through it.
The only,
If you could send this revised list out so that we can take another look at it, and then,
So that top document, the one that says Conservation Commission checklist draft, 8/26/20, that should be, is it
'Cause you-
floating?
You included her
Yeah,
Mhm.
comments, okay.
yeah, that's the one that has the additive comments.
Okay.
Yep, so that one should be pretty squared away, ready to go. Mine's for some reason not, okay, here it is, yeah.
I was just thinking that if you could send it out again, next meeting, we finalize it.
Perfect.
Okay,
Or if people can look at it at their house and say, I don't have any comments.
or if they have any additional resources, like these are
Hmm.
things that either Lisa suggested or I had seen on the DES website, UNH Cooperative Extension, Fish and Game, different places that I was able to pull.
Any of the stuff that, that is, yeah, okay, I got some input there.
Yeah,
Okay, but we'll finalize it next meeting.
okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. So we haven't done anything with the rules and procedures.
we're such rebels. We're such rebels, we don't wanna.
Anybody want to
Rules
make
don't-
any comments about that?
I don't know.
The March 4th, 2020 PDF?
So,
What, just before it came off the rails?
and,
Oh, yeah, beautiful, okay, yeah.
so we had
Hey,
talked
maybe it
about-
takes a re-looking at also.
We had talked about, because obviously coronavirus has put a total stomp on the timeline of this, then having another meeting in September and kind of more thoroughly going through some of these. We're not gonna deem it a work session per se, because we do have at least one application, that will need to be heard at that time, but I guess spending a more majority of the time to really like hash out questions
Right.
and concerns, so that way we can get it finalized and get it,
So who is the applicant?
Luke Powell for, Clinton Street Water Project.
Okay. He won't take long. So
He
what,
can stay.
what?
We like him.
He can stay and he can help us. Tell him that's a condition of us putting on him on the agenda.
Oh, you're
He
gonna
needs
have to
help
pay
with the
now.
rules and procedures.
Have to pay now more than ever.
I don't think we can afford him.
See how it
This
goes?
is volunteer time.
Jeez.
He gets paid the same amount we do. All right,
Easy.
so let's put that on the agenda for the rules and procedures on the agenda for the next meeting. And then we'll just sit down and go
Along
through
with the
them.
checklist, and
We'll just go through them.
we'll do our homework next time.
Yeah.
So if you could send this out again?
On that, there's one thing that I would like to draw your attention to on the that no decision tonight, obviously, but something to consider. So on page 5, section 5, number 3, the state legislature during the last session changed the requirement that we no longer are required to post our public hearings and meeting notices in the newspaper
Cause that all goes in under their ad revenue. I mean, you pay to get your
Oh, yeah, yeah.
square.
Yeah, the city pays.
Going
for that.
rates.
I mean, you know, which is fine, we budgeted for it, so it's not a big deal, but, you know,
But you'd still have the option to notify for anything of import,
right, right.
anything of size.
60, 70 years ago, when they first put that provision in the law about newspapers of general distribution,
That was
every community had a newspaper of
Right.
general distribution.
If not
That's
two.
really not true anymore.
No, it isn't.
You know,
Sad.
we have one,
So,
sort of,
And they
what
don't-
we need in terms of,
Well, where it says then post all meetings in the newspaper or in two public places, so where would the two public places be?
We normally, we post here at City Hall, downstairs
library.
and outside, and at the library,
Okay,
and
SAU office.
well, that would be two,
Yeah.
one here and one at the
also
library.
on the website now.
And that's
Right.
covered.
Right.
So it's
Okay,
out there.
I just didn't know
Yeah.
where
So-
those, okay.
so we got it, we have it covered.
Yeah.
So let's just,
Let it
my
go.
opinion, let's just special events, public hearings, something where we want to encourage the public to communicate with us, to look at some issue on an as-needed basis.
Yeah, I agree. Should we take a vote?
Yeah.
Well,
No? You,
do we need, why don't we just vote on the whole thing? I mean, they can make the change without us voting on it. We can vote on the whole thing next time.
okay.
I'm just.
Or you could let it go.
Okay, so if you would make that change in the document, then when we vote, it'll be there, please.
Do it all at once.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, next. So you want to talk about Trib and Pogus Bay water quality sampling?
Okay, so Dean and I went out today.
Today. In the rain?
Cool.
Wow.
It wasn't really raining.
It was
that
easier to
hard.
collect the water that way.
Yeah.
Right on
Just held the
top.
bucket up and- Yeah, so we did, Pogus Bay trips. We, have been talking with Stormwater Management, Lisa Eggleston, because they're trying to do a, Lake Winnisquam watershed study. And so we may be tacking on, doing additional Trib samples for Opeechee, and that's kind of pending, but we do have, 3 or 4 locations scoped out to add to our list if we decide to move forward in that direction. But I'll be dropping off those samples tomorrow morning. I have a lot of coolers in my car, but
Did we used to do by the bridge, and or by the river, Fair Street, right? Didn't we do the Fair Street Bridge?
South down Hilliard Road.
We do, when we sample for Winnisquam Watershed Network, we sample at the Fish and Game Ramp.
Right, okay.
we did try, there's 3 trip locations for Pogus Bay on Pogus Park Road that are outfalls and right on the other side of the railroad, but even while it was raining, there was no water that we would be able to collect to sample there. I think
Welcome
you
to
could try
2020.
out or snow melt or something. Since we've been in a drought, there's just not anything to sample at this point. So that took our list down from 9 to 6 locations that we do.
Appleton Road over in Lakeport. There's a, isn't there, thought there was a house down in there, one of the pump houses. I could be wrong now that I think about it. Just another way in to the lake.
Yeah, we do the end of Mass Ave. We do just north of that. There's 2 locations in Southdown, Long Bay. Then we go to Hilliard Road. We do Hilliard Road, and then we do the outfall of Pickerel Cove right
Yeah.
into Pogus Bay, so.
How did the initial results look?
streams coming out of wooded areas were cooler. I don't know whether the pH was pretty consistent.
For the most part, that one spot off Hilliard was a little more acidic, we had found it. What did you mention for being like the attribute to that? Remember it was,
Well, it's the tannic acid
Trees.
from the naturally occurring trees, so.
yeah, but nothing too alarming. What our YSI meter decided to not want to do conductivity after our first station, so I'm dropping that off at DES tomorrow because I could not figure it out. I calibrated it
Yeah.
3-4 times and I kept getting the same, it was reading as 0, and then I dipped it in the 2,000 units and it came up as like 1 point with this, it should be in very close to 2,000, it's not
Right.
even reading, it's
When-
acting very weird, so.
And last week I sampled the tribs for Winnisquam, and we had precisely the same problem with the YSI meter. Precisely the same problem. So, anyway, it
Yeah.
is what it is, and maybe it's, anyway, maybe it's me, I don't know. I wasn't doing the meter, so.
Did you do temperature?
We did temperature, and we do temperatures, and the
Was it
temperatures
hot?
are, you know, coming out of a wooded area, it's cooler.
It was like
Then-
17 degrees Celsius, and then closer to the bay, it was more like 20
Mhm.
degrees Celsius.
I mean, nothing surprising.
Cool.
Okay, so the Winnisquam Watershed Management Plan is being worked on. Lisa Eggleston is doing that. We're gathering data for that plan so it can be submitted to the state. And part of it is to do property surveys using a checklist that was given to us by FB Environmental, the environmental consulting firm that Winnisquam Watershed Network hired. And they said, you know, here are the parameters, this is how you, this is how you grade each of the properties. And it's, the only purpose is to just get a handle on what the watershed looks like, what the shoreland looks like. So, tomorrow I'm going out with 2 of my neighbors who have a boat, and we're gonna do part of Laconia. Lisa Eggleston and another man, Bob Day, did the river, the Winnipesaukee River, and this area of Laconia, south of that, so, anyway, so, we're working on this thing, we're trying to get funding, and everybody's having a good time. But one of the things that was really cool was when Bob and I went over to sample Collins Brook, just before Collins Brook comes into the lake, the man who lives there, whose last name I think is Hurt, or Hit, one of the two, said that this year was the best year for smelt
Oh,
and for trout. He said, and it's a small, I mean,
Yeah.
the stream is not as wide as this room,
Right.
and
Probably
he
low.
said there were 12 and 14-inch trout going upstream toward Pickerel Pond. That's
Wow.
Pickerel Pond up there, so that was really cool.
My grandfather used to take me down there, and he had a big old smelt net, long handled. And we'd go down there at dark 30 in the morning, and they would catch up more smelt than you could shake a stick at. Bring them back, and all day long, my grandmother would cook them up, bread them, fry them.
There you go. Those days may be coming back. Stay tuned.
Hallelujah.
But, I think that this is you know, this is an indication that the sampling that we're doing and the data collection we're doing is turning out to be valuable in terms of monitoring what's going on with fisheries and water quality, and so, anyway, so that was my exciting takeaway
Pretty good.
from that event. Okay, so, Stacy, what do you got? What's the planning board been doing? Anything?
Well, they did pass Woodvale last night. There were comments about it being a storage facility, not being allowed in a residential neighborhood, but it's really not a commercial storage. So that did not fly. It's just a personal garage. The only thing, and I hope I didn't overstep, water kept being brought up, about water being piped into it. And Mr. Holmesy insisted that he did not have that intention, but I didn't like that it got brought up, because I did state that the Conservation Commission probably would not have passed that application if they had known that water was going to be intended to go there. So, but he insisted that, and I did ask Dean if that he would have to come back in front of you if he wanted to put water to it, and he does not have to. So,
There is not water and sewer in that neighborhood.
I guess there is.
Is there?
There's
Is there
water.
now?
It's Lakes Regional Water,
Oh,
Lakes Regional Company.
is it at the street?
Yeah.
Huh.
There is
Okay.
no sewer though.
Right.
So he's gonna only drink water there?
He claims he's not running water into the building.
Okay, so is there a, is there a way to monitor that water is not being brought in?
Is there a what?
A way to monitor, to make sure that
Oh.
he does what he says he'll do?
I mean, it's,
Could dig up.
the water line was stubbed off, so I don't know why it wasn't, I don't know why that was done.
So it's almost ready to be done, all it has to do is be picked up and finished,
Yeah.
which is pretty much in line with,
But, so we put the
General
condition on
standards.
approvals that if he runs water into the building, he's gotta have a means of treating the end result of that. You know, even if it's just a sink, where's the sink go?
right.
It's not a violation of the site plan?
No,
Okay, I just,
Okay, what about the size of the building? Did you approve that, what was it, 48 by 90?
Yeah.
Or- That was approved?
yeah.
What about the overhang for the roof? 4 feet versus 2 feet?
two, it's limited to two.
Okay. What color is the building gonna be?
That
Neutral.
was talked about, that
Neutral.
it could only be brown or green. It
Okay.
had to blend.
Good.
And the wording was put as must,
Okay.
so no bright orange.
How are we gonna find it in a snowstorm?
Be all the boats parked outside.
Oh, no, can't have anything outside.
I know, trust me, riding the tail of this dragon for years.
But I think it does boil down to neighbors. I mean,
Yep.
there's, only neighbors can monitor. There's
And I
just-
think they will now. I think,
Oh, yeah.
I think they'll keep an eye on it.
They seemed like concerned neighbors.
Did the neighbors come last night?
I think they called in, or one of them called in.
Okay. Okay. What else?
That was pretty, yeah. That was pretty much it for conservation, I thought. Overall, it will be better to look at a building than all this equipment. I think the neighbors will realize that afterward. The options are,
So is this going to be a metal building that is essentially brought in pieces and put together like Legos?
Well, he did mention, I think 8 windows. It'll have 1 garage door. There will be a door on the back going to nowhere, because
Yeah, for safety, that would be important.
the wall is right there. So, and then windows, probably 4 on each side, but
Second story,
What's he
Bar.
need windows for, yeah.
No second story.
no second story, good. Anyways,
He-
thank
he-
God.
He's gotta have bigger, enough room for his big boat.
So as part of the whole process, we did send a letter to the 3 immediate abutters, letting them know that ahead of time that he had changed his plan and removed the second driveway. And we also let them know that it is a vernal pool, it's been determined to be a vernal pool, which puts a 100-foot buffer, which means the 100-foot buffer goes into their yards. And that puts a restriction on them, potentially, if they need or want to do anything in the future. And it's definitely in the category of be careful what you ask for, but nonetheless,
Yeah.
it is what it is. And there's also a small drainage problem that needs to be, swale needs to be reconstructed, that the neighbors have filled in over the years with yard wastes, that we pointed that out and said this is not going to continue.
And I think Mr. Holmesy said that he would be,
He's gonna take care of that.
right, okay.
Under close
We have
supervision.
to rein him in, because he's one of these guys that, he's talking about putting in I forget what the term is, but anyway, basically a dry well with a couple of output pipes, and, it's like, no, it's not necessary. All you gotta do is just clean out the forested material, the yard waste, and just restore the swale so that you get to a point where the water just goes down. That's all that needs to be done. Okay, but I mean, it's just, you give him an inch and he wants to take a mile on everything.
I did speak with the neighbor just to the north of him too, about that swale, and he's agreeable to resolving that and working with Mr. Lindsay if need be, because it is right on the property boundary, so hopefully they can work on that together and come to a good resolution, maybe mend some broken relationship that has been slightly tarnished.
So one of the things that I did not like about this application, and maybe it just, I don't recall whether it's happened on other applications, but on this one in particular, was he was talking about the wetlands, and in fact, the wetlands on this particular project were the things that were really driving what we would and would not allow. But he was representing it, and he's not a wetland scientist. Shouldn't we have the consultant that he has hired, or anybody hires, to do a wetland survey to come and talk to us about that wetland survey? In other words, I'm not a wetland scientist, so I can't really discuss it in at the same level of professionalism as somebody who is a trained wetland scientist.
I think it would be advisable for most applicants to in fact do that, to have their expert come in and talk. But, I mean, obviously there is a cost, there's additional cost to have them show up to meetings, and so some applicants choose not to do that, thinking that they can represent the data well enough, and sometimes that will work out just fine, and other times they may get tabled and have to come back again. So I don't know. I can't make them do that. I understand the suggestion, and we certainly encourage that, but
I think, and on the record here, what I resented most about that application was that the applicant kept coming forward and tried to make this board accept or condone exactly what is the antithesis of the philosophy of this board. And I found it most difficult that he was tone deaf on it and kept coming back time and time again to tell us exactly what no one in this table is going to accede to. And in that, I found that tiresome.
I think, the reason I would have wanted his wetland scientist to come here is because when he first came, he said that they were not vernal pools. And then when he came, whatever time it was, a second or third time, he said it was a vernal pool. And that was the point at which we said, we need to hear from your wetland scientist if this is a vernal pool or not. And he came back with, oh, it is a vernal pool. So had we not known that it was a vernal pool, we might have made different decisions.
Right,
So-
and in the year and a half or whatever it's been that we've been working with him on this, I mean, that was one of the things that we told him is that we suspect it is a vernal pool and you need to confirm that. And he finally did have his soil scientist go out this spring and confirm it. And of course, at first he thought that was a great thing. You know, that's an
Until
advantage.
I'll just think of one of those little salamanders I can run over.
That's an advantage, and obviously, from his, what he wants to do, it's not an advantage, but it's good to know anyway.
But the point is that if he had come to us and said it was not a vernal pool,
Supported by science?
no,
Study,
if
data.
that's what he told us, because his wetland scientist is not there, and we don't have a report or letter or any, documentation, we would have accepted that. And that's not right. If an applicant, and I don't wanna pick on him, if an applicant comes and they want us to do certain things, to approve certain things, they need to provide us with expert information, not, oh yeah, well, I looked at it and it was dry.
I think the troubling part for me is that the people who did the delineation 2-3 years ago were the same people who we're the ones that said, you need to do the vernal pool study. I'm almost concerned that they didn't say,
They didn't
oh,
include
this
it.
has potential, because they are the experts. And this is kind of,
Oh,
it's not day to day that you see a vernal pool, and it's not the planning department's, experience. So there's times where we just have to make those judgment calls, and that's when we made the judgment call and said, we'd like you to look into that. So it is a little troublesome to see. They did that 3 years ago, that delineation. They could have noticed it then or made that recommendation then. It never came up until we said it.
it's because he
And then they
wasn't
went back
paying
and they
them
got
to,
it, and they said, yes, there is a vernal pool.
because he
That's
wasn't
what it was.
paying them to make that recommendation.
I think
He was
paid them
paying
for
them to make
part
the
of his-
recommendation he wanted to present.
I can see that it would be, additional funds to go the extra mile and do the vernal pool study because it's a subset within a wetland, but as a wetland scientist, you do not have that eye to say, I was here, I did the wetland delineation, and yes, it has this potential. Like, it didn't, at that time, that additional step was never taken.
Right.
And it took the planning department to notice that.
So I guess in the future,
We can,
what I would recommend is that
we can add it-
somebody has,
we can add it to the checklist.
I think, yeah, certainly we add it to the checklist, that if you have an expert that will submit a report to substantiate or to support your application, we want that expert to come before this commission
It's
to.
suggested that wetland scientists give a presentation.
Even if we were to do the same databases that are used for timber projects, New Hampshire granite, all that stuff is listed. All that stuff is easy. All of it is listed. You don't need to pay that if you can press the button and say, look, there's no wetlands there. That stuff has been mapped. This is 2020. And so the stuff is there, it's on the websites, available through the state of New Hampshire, and it's public, it's open service.
Well, I think, and, you know, certainly that should be good supporting information, but if other people are doing construction around different areas, they may change the flow of water or the topography or whatever, and that could influence at least the
It's
downstream.
not
or
going to
down-
become wetlands in 2 years. 2 years isn't forever.
But, okay, so I would just like to see us have if you want to do, you know, I have no idea how much Mr. Holmes' project is going to cost to construct. $50,000. To hire your wetland scientist to come here for a couple of hours to talk to us, what's it gonna cost? I mean, I don't know what wetland scientists charge.
250, 300.
Okay, so $300 an hour,
Well, they have
2
to do
hours,
the survey too, don't
$600.
forget $5,000 for a survey. So when you're working on small marginal properties, you could easily make it a bar that was harder to get over for smaller marginal properties that are potentially commercially developable. And in that case, you'd wear the yoke of not being welcoming for development or commerce in the city of Laconia, heaven forbid.
So I'm at $125 an hour, but to get to your point,
Okay.
Mike, I'm sorry, to get to your point, could we have it that these small maybe we could set like a limit on the size of properties? If people can't afford us, then this is something that we, city staff needs a site visit with us. Because what you're talking about is, there's a difference between what we're seeing on Granite and somebody's done a project since this photo was taken and something's changed, so it's a site visit. So it's not a cost to the small, it's not a barrier, but it does have eyes on the ground. And if something comes up that's a trigger, because then you can say, we really urge you to pay somebody because we're on.
And cite it out.
Yeah, I'm just throwing that out there. that
Sure.
maybe
No,
there's a-
I mean, I think, you know, having an economic barrier for somebody, I think that's a legitimate point. But in a project like this, that is, anyway, I made my point.
Yeah, no,
So-
and I agree with you. I'm just, I guess what I'm saying is that maybe there's some, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, that there could be some level of complexity of a project that maybe they don't need to.
Each, as they say in ZBA, each application is judged on its own merits.
Right, exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
you'd have to take in that there are pieces that, you know, could potentially contribute to the tax base of the community, you know, but there certainly might come in conflict with some of the new school rules that have been put upon it.
I think it just varies for the application though, because, I mean, we often see engineers come present on behalf of large projects that have a wetland impact, not the wetland scientist, and they do a fine job, and sometimes the residents that come in on behalf of their single-family home with a new deck in the buffer do an okay job too. I mean, we can't require someone to have their expert person, require them to pay for them to come present, but you could, like Dean said, at that time, if you're uncertain about it, suggest, maybe we table it, we do advise that you have your professional come in. If you're not gonna do that, here's a list of our questions, hopefully next time you come back in, you'll have those ready for us, but
Well, we're not, it's getting late, and I think but I think to Dean's point, I still wouldn't want a homeowner walking away with a list of questions and then coming back and reporting to us. I mean,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
at some level, there needs to be an intercedence of professional staff if we get to that point, but case by case. Yes.
And that's why it's a good thing there's a conservation commission. We learn, we teach them, they keep us on our toes, so.
And it's always an evolving process. I certainly have never found this commission to be a static commission. I've always found that there's room to learn, and you have to keep up with current stuff.
Okay,
Thank you for your report.
yeah.
Well, honestly,
I-
I said no the second I heard vernal pool, but then Dean took me out to the site, and I will admit, it did change my answer, because I was actually able to see the impact it would have. So ever since then, every single project, I've scoped it out. And so now I can visualize it, I can picture it, I have a much better answer.
Okay.
So did you go and look at the site?
Mhm.
So, I mean, I tried to put myself in the neighbors,
Right,
the one directly across, what they've been looking at,
right.
and it did change my answer too. You know, if I were them, I would rather look at a building that blended in. He says he's gonna make some really nice decisions on plantings and,
In a
It's gonna go to-
Ferris,
it's gonna
in
go
a
to
Ferris
Barton's.
wheel.
One of Barton's.
yeah.
Okay, and so, just to, one last thing on this. I have wetland experience. I will tell you that I believe that both of the pools on either side of that property are vernal pools.
I'm sure.
So,
It was beautiful.
yeah, yeah. Okay, all right, so, sorry. Anything else from the planning
Ashley, do
board?
you have anything?
God. Ashley,
So World Water Monitoring Day, I know all of our events this year have been totally squashed, but World Water Monitoring Day is on September 18th, so I included a little thing that will likely be in this Friday's version of the links and next week's Laconia link, just talking about how we do VRAP sampling and also participate in the Lake Lakes monitoring program with UNH. And at the end, put a little, if you have any interest and you want to know more or participate, I mean, we're always looking to have additional hands-on deck, granted, social distancing and appropriate protocols will be taking place, but
it's this Friday?
it's the 18th.
Okay.
But the link, so it's in the Laconia links that goes out every Friday. So it should be in this Friday and next Friday's, Laconia links.
Maybe what we could do is have a map that shows where we do sampling on Winnisquam and, and Pogus Bay.
Yeah, I just made it like a little half thing, I didn't wanna
Good.
take up a ginormous
Okay.
That's nice.
part of it, but, and then, so Dean and Marnie have membership, terms that have ended technically as of August.
Oh, my.
Oh, my goodness.
We've been listening to them all
They
night.
They both have forms to renew their positions if they are interested in renewing their positions for another 3
But
years.
you serve until replaced, so.
Ah, the old press gang.
We don't need to
It was
take,
like a glint.
we don't need to take a special vote to accept
No,
it.
it's just, if they're interested, they fill out the paperwork and it goes before city council and city council finalizes it. So
What-
there's no internal.
What I meant was they voted on things tonight as part of a quorum, so there's no.
No.
There's no.
Oh, no,
He
no,
says
no.
you
They're
serve
fine.
until you.
Yeah, that's true, okay.
Serve until replaced.
Okay.
And,
No, I checked with Ashley before the meeting, so.
yeah, and on that note, we're a 7-member, you guys are a 7-member board. We're down to 6 members because of Dick unfortunately passing away. So I know Nancy had recently posted about the different boards and different openings, and it was in the Laconia links and in the newspaper as well. So we have the one open vacancy for the board.
Luke Powell. No.
Okay,
That's all I got right now.
good. Ian, do you have anything? Okay. Okay,
Mike?
I didn't get a call back from the assessor today, but I'm curious, and until my ear has an answer, I can't make a decision. And I know that when we sell timber or aggregate from the properties, the town takes a fee, a tax, a natural resources tax, and my understanding is that this went in and the income, as it were, from that was placed in the Conservation Commission fund for future projects. And I'm wondering if that's true, or I called today, haven't heard a call back.
So, I actually spoke with Tara, and you need to call Glenn Smith tomorrow, because I spoke with him as well.
All right.
They did try to call you, your voicemail box is full.
I sit on a tractor, I can't hear it,
I
yeah.
didn't have a chance, because you walked in like a minute after we had started, but I have Glenn's direct number, so he wants you to call him tomorrow.
All right, that sounds
And I'll
great.
do that.
So,
Great
okay,
answer.
so I think it would be important for us to know the answer to that question.
I know
And-
any
and it's-
properties that have the current use, that goes into the conservation fund, but in terms of that, we'll,
Oh, if it hasn't been current use and they take an income from it, but it has not to do with access, then they keep their own income?
to my
I
knowledge,
guess-
to my knowledge, the main funding of the conservation money comes from the current use tax,
Right.
not from that.
Oh, all right. I could really
Yeah,
not know.
I'll let Glenn talk to you.
Perfect.
You can, we'll have a little update, I guess, for the next meeting, but.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, so, next meeting, perfect segue.
14th, 16th, 16th.
16th?
Oh, Jesus.
Okay.
But it could be also the 23rd.
It's the 16th,
Yeah,
Okay.
we have work to do.
according to our schedule.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, is that okay with everybody? Can we have so we have a quorum? Okay.
I may not, I don't know, but I'm just ahead of time, I think I'm really booked that day, but it's okay, I'll see.
Okay. Okay, so if everybody could let Ashley know if they can make the 16th, that would be great. Thank you. And just a reminder, the 9th is the primary, so make sure you
Ninth or
vote.
the 8th?
The
Oh,
8th.
the 8th,
The 8th,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Aren't you
What
working?
are you?
I'm sorry.
And I didn't think you were that type.
Already.
You never know. You
I'll make a
never know.
motion that we stand adjourned.
And I'll second that motion.
All right, anybody want to discuss that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Thank you.